So today I've got Bennett on the podcast. Bennett is actually like a mindset coach for youth and does a lot of things. He's out of Pennsylvania, and he's here to kind of coach us through getting over some of the hurdles we have and whatnot. But Bennett, could you maybe start by telling us your backstory, how you got into coaching and into the field that you are?
Sure. First of all, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it, and hopefully add some value to your audience. Um, but yeah, I got started when I first started working. I really wasn't sure of what I wanted to do, and I got going from thing to thing, small things. But one thing that always stuck out to me was education. And for the
Mm,
first 10, 11 years of my life, I was involved in the more formal side of education. So, teacher, I was a basketball coach for a little bit, doing programming and whatnot. And towards the end of those 11 years, I started at a local school here in Philadelphia, and I was the dean of students. And there, my role was twofold. One, I was actually doing some of the formal stuff just because it's a small school and everyone's got to wear a lot of hats. So I was doing some teaching. But on the other hand, I was also working with the students, really working with them one-on-one on their own personal growth, on things that they
mm,
were going through and whatnot. And when I was going through that, I realized that there is the other side of education, the informal side of education, really, where most people have those aha moments. Most people look at those teachers that they resonate, or they say, change their lives. And it's really not in the classroom. It's usually like the small things outside the classroom. And it's the conversations you have in the cafeteria, or, in the gymnasium, or whatever it is. And I realized that this is something that I really want to tap into. And then I started speaking to a buddy of mine, and he was doing this coaching thing. And I was like, what is this? And after speaking to him, we realized that a lot of his past was very similar to mine. He was also in the formal education, and then he tried transitioning to he did some real estate, nursing home, trying to figure out what he wanted to do. And he found this coaching, and he ended up hiring a coach and joined this program. And he became a coach. And I was like, how do I do it? So I actually ended up hiring him to train me. And
mm.
from there, about 3 years ago, I started coaching. And ever since then, I started working with people on the more informal side of not just education, but life, really, and really trying to work on the personal development side of becoming the best version of yourself. Because I'm a big believer that we all have things that hold us back, and the biggest thing that holds us back is really ourselves. And we could just look to
Yeah.
unlock ourselves and really step into that. So the world is our oyster. So I'm a big student of Jim Rohn, who is no longer with us, but I listen to
Oh,
all his
yeah.
stuff and I'm obsessed with really everything he has to say. And then
He's so
just all the
quotable,
other,
isn't he?
yeah, and just all the other gurus that are around now. So really just listening and trying to share messages, taking my own personal experiences from my clients and whatnot, and really starting to work, with students, but adults also, really on the mindset and on the personal development side of things, so they can start getting from point A to point B and start living that life that they want to be living.
Bennett, what's the first question you would ask somebody? They come to you and say, "Hey, I need some coaching. I'm struggling with whatever." What's your,
My go-to is
where do you
like,
start?
yeah, it's like, what's going on? Tell me more. Usually when somebody reaches out, even to say, oh, what is coaching? That's usually how it starts. Oh, what's this coaching thing you're
Mm,
doing? And then there's usually some question. It's most of the times not just a curiosity question. It's more like, oh, I have something going on in my own life, and what's going on.
okay.
Even like with the professionals that I work with, or I start the relationship with, it's more professional sense. They're stuck in their businesses or whatnot. It always turns into like the personal side, because they are a person and they are going through
Mm,
things. And if they can balance everything in their personal life, it's only going to spread in all areas, whether it's their professional, whether it's their relationships, their health, and whatnot. So um, it's really trying to continue to dig. I actually just put out a YouTube video last week on my top 12 coaching questions that somebody that
okay.
I like asking throughout the coaching conversation. So you can definitely take a look over there if you're interested in more in that. But
Yeah.
one of the things is really just trying to open them up and try to figure out what is it that you're going through.
Does their why come into that play? Like, I mean, I'm struggling with XYZ,
Yeah.
but you kind of got to get to the why of why they want to change too, right?
100%. And that's really one of the first steps to like the goal setting process that I like to
Okay.
work with, is the why, because the why is really everything. It's the anchor. It's when you go through the
Hmm.
tough times, you go back to your why, because you're like, oh, now
Yeah.
I remember why I'm doing it. And one of the things that happens is a lot of people they don't know why they're doing it. And I like to give this example that a lot of people are like, I want to make $1 million. Like that's their, I don't know, for some reason, like that's a goal that everyone
Yeah.
has. And it's like, well, why? It's like, I never thought about it. I want to make money. Not, but like, why do you want to make $1,000,000? There's nothing wrong with it. Just like, let's get curious about it. And, that word curious is like a beautiful word in the coaching sense. And you start to dig, and it's like, well, I want to really be able to support my family in a comfortable way. And maybe I'm going to give some charity and, support certain organizations or be able to invest for my future more. And then you dig deeper, like, well, why do you want to do that? And once you start getting to the reflection on the inside, that's when the power starts to really come out. And that's where the why usually comes in. And if we could start to work on that and tap into that emotion, we don't have to, go through each level. We already peel the onion to the core, which we already have now. And then we have the ability to tap into whenever it is that we need to.
Yeah. There's a book I read 5-6 years ago. It's called Blue Fishing. Have you heard of it?
No. All right.
Blue Fishing by Steven Sims.
Okay.
Anyway, he gives people what they want. That's the premise of the book. So it's really exciting read. But he talks what you're talking about, Bennett, in regards to finding out why they want to tee off with Tiger Woods. What is their why? And he'll talk about you've got to ask it 3 times to really get
right.
Because you tell me you want to tee off with Tiger Woods, and I'll say, well, why? And you'll say, well, he's a great golfer. And I'll say, yeah, but why do you want to tee off with him? Like, there's other great golfers. And, well, I've been following him for years. Well, then maybe my last why is, when I was 12 years old, he teed off and I won a bet and whatever. I don't know.
Right.
But
For sure.
he talks about that, digging for that. But yeah, that book's a cool book because then he gives people that tee off with Tiger Woods or whatever.
That's cool.
So it's really cool. So yeah, the why is the strongest, and I like what you said there. You said it's the anchor. It's what you bring people back to when they want to quit, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I like to look at it. I imagine it as like a buoy, like in the ocean.
Sure.
And, the buoy's going to get rocked by the waves depending on the storm that's going on. And the why is the thing that keeps us centered. And we got to get above the waves as much as possible. But the waves are going to happen. Like people have this expectation of things not going wrong. Like I was just working with a client of mine who's in the contracting space, and we were speaking about certain projects that certain subs were just messing up, and he was like, just kept getting frustrated. I'm like, dude, your expectation is totally wrong. Like this is like normal. You know what I'm saying? Like things are going to go wrong, and because your expectations mess up, you're only going to get more frustrated. The more frustrated you get, the more energy you're going to spend on it. The more energy you spend on it, then you're not spending that energy on something more productive. So like if we just shift our expectations just a little bit, of course we shouldn't allow these things to happen, but if we could stop them, then great. We got to learn from it and move on. But we can't allow it to really take over us, because we're very emotional beings, and we, I think the younger generations, myself included, like we're just more emotional, So understanding that about ourselves and recognizing that like the work needs to get done, and we need to continue to take that action. And the more action we could take by not getting down as much, that could be the thing that helps us move forward with what it is we're looking to do.
Yeah, that's good. Do you ever like encourage people to like do journaling? Would that be part of this
dude,
at all?
if you listen to any of my stuff, I'm a huge journaler. I talk about journaling all the time. I got my journals. Different phases. I'm actually in a phase right now where I've been typing. I've never been a typer in journaling.
Okay.
But I've been, I don't know, for some reason, that's what I'm vibing with right now. But I'm a huge proponent of journaling. I think it is so powerful. There's so many reasons. I also made a YouTube video on that. But I would say the 2 biggest things about journaling is, number 1, we get to audit ourselves, which I think most people don't do. And I think most companies that are successful are constantly learning what happened last 3 months. How can we switch it for the next month or last year or whatever it is? And by journaling, you really have details about what's going on. It's one of the things that, if you find yourself always getting angry or always getting burnt out, like what's the pattern that's going on there? And like, you could really go back and like have a pattern and see it. Like, oh, this is literally what's been happening. So it's like every 6 weeks I get burnt out. Like, okay, so like we got to figure that out. And what can we do differently to start to shift it? The other idea about journaling that I love so much is that it's a resource for our kids or our grandkids or great grandkids or whoever is going to be there to be able to do that. Because like I was wondering, like if I had something from my grandfather that showed when he was like 15 years old, 20 years old, going through the things that he went through, And I was able to see like he's like a normal guy, and he was able to do it. And like in my mind, he's like, he's like a hero. But understanding that like he was like a normal person, he went through certain
Hmm.
struggles, that he overcame them, and he might have failed a bunch of them. But understanding that could be the most valuable book that you can hand, to that next
Yes.
generation. And I think for me personally, I would have loved that. And if I could hand that off to whoever wants to read it, I think that could be
Yeah.
really valuable for them as well.
My wife, her mother passed away years ago, but she was a religious woman, read her Bible every day, and wrote in her Bible. And to your point, that's exactly, I mean, that's very valuable to my wife, her mom's Bible,
Yeah.
because it, there's dates and there's short thoughts and there's, it's just, it's like it's not a journal, but it's similar to a journal as far as her spiritual walk
Yeah.
and all that. What do you think, if I can tap into this journaling for a second?
Sure.
You said you're typing right now.
Yeah.
Is there something to be said for writing it as far as what happens in your brain through the process versus typing or not?
So I think like scientifically there is something that happens. But I think before getting into like the perfectionist of like what's the best way to
Mhm.
do it, I think the more important is to do it. Right. So
Okay.
somebody's like getting started and they're like, well, I like just texting on my phone. So like use your notes in your phone. Like do
Sure.
whatever you got to do to do it. You know what I'm saying? Once you get into the habit of doing it, once you understand like what it is you could do, I think there is a value to writing. One of the beautiful things I love about the physical copy is like there are no rules. So you can spell how you want. You can make
Yeah.
pictures. You can do things like sometimes in some of my journals, I actually write notes to like my kids. So I'm like, hey, buddy, if you're
Hmm.
reading this and you're like, I don't know, 40 years old, like, just like, it's like just something like funny that I
Proud of
like.
you.
You do.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, keep going, like, I know you had a tough day in school today, but like, you're going to be fine. Like, you see, you're fine. So there's like some cool creative ways and things that you can start to do when you write. But I think, I don't know, I don't know, but I believe I've heard that there is something
Yeah, that's what I thought I've
more
heard.
beneficial to actually physically writing them.
What about recording it? If you were to record your thoughts, is that would be similar. I mean, that would be good too, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that could be something that could be valuable. I think one of the cool things about journaling is that you're able to get your ideas from your head out, because I think
Hmm.
for so many people, one of the things that I like talking about, the difference between, anxiety, nerves, and stress. There's like there's a big difference that like nobody knows that there's a difference, but there's difference. You might feel similar, but the way you combat it is very different. And what happens with stress is that we have so many things just going on in our minds. And if we could start to take all that information, just put it on a piece of paper, or put it
Okay.
into somewhere, like the amount of like relief you're gonna feel just to see it, like, oh, that's only like 5 things that are like I keep circling around in my mind, as opposed to like I'm just going nuts, I need to get everything on paper, could be so beneficial. So really getting it out on paper is so beneficial. And then understanding, and like for me personally, like I'm very into my content and I have ideas, but I'm like, I need to formulate it a little bit.
Mhm.
So how can I just write it or get it out and then work on it, and just come up with like the ideas that I'm trying to think of in a more contextual way where people can actually understand what I'm trying to say and the point that I'm trying to make, really.
Yeah, that's really good. Kind of reminds me of Gary Keller's book, One Thing. Have you
Sure.
read that one? Yeah,
I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
where, yeah, he talks in there about, I mean, everyone's got their focal point for the day, but if there's something that takes less than 2 minutes, just do it. Just get it done and get it
Yep.
out of the brain so it's not taking up space. And I don't remember if it's a 2 minute rule or 1 minute rule, but,
Yeah.
um, and it's what you talked about. It frees up the space, makes you more productive because you're not weighed down with
Yep.
XYZ. So that's cool. Um, so journaling is a big part. Have you been journaling like your whole life?
No, that's more of a recent personal development piece. I would say before I was coaching, I started journaling. Um, I remember when I was like 19, 20, I used to have a piece of paper on me all the time. I remember I was actually recently just thinking about this, where I would like write down quotes or like certain things that I enjoyed.
Okay.
Um, and then every couple of weeks, the paper would just be like ripping, and I would have to like rewrite it and put it in different places. And then I think I have them somewhere like compilation of them, but never officially bought a book and whatnot. And now, like on Amazon, you can just buy it for like $8 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I would suggest buying it on Amazon and not going to like one of the physical stores, just because the physical stores sell it for like $25-$30. So you could literally buy the same thing for like $7-8
It's just a piece.
on
Yeah,
Amazon.
it's just a book with
Exactly. So
Um, tell me about your book, Lost Then Found.
yeah, sure. So this was one of those things that I personally always had this belief that I was not a writer. In school, I never did well in my essays. I never really got like the 5-paragraph essay thing. Like I don't know, for some reason my brain just never clicked. And one day I was on a walk, which I'm a big walker, and I was walking and I was like, I should write a book. And I was like, Bennett, what are you saying? You're not a writer. And I was like, no, I think that'll be like a really cool project, and to really just get all my ideas, because I was, at that point I was making content for a while, and I had all my ideas, and I started, formatting it and putting it in different, trying to teach it differently and whatnot. And I was like, no, I think it'd be pretty cool. So I started doing research on writing books, and then I gave myself like a date. I was like, okay, the next 30 days, I'm going to write 1,500 words a day every morning before I do anything else. Just 1,500 words, no matter what I have to write, and just, learning from different people's mistakes and whatnot. And then afterwards, I'll try to figure out like what to do next. And over the course of the next 30 days, I ended up writing close to 30,000 words. I didn't write, I wrote like, I think 5 or 6 days a week. So it wasn't, exactly.
Yeah, I got you.
But then I ended up finding an editor online with one of these platforms. He helped me edit it, format it, and then I got somebody else to help me upload it on Amazon, and then pow, it was like really cool.
And your book, is it just, I haven't read it. I'm going to check it out later, but is it like just what you're talking, just the way you coach? Is it your
Yeah, I
story?
would say
What?
it's on personal development, and it's really helping people find the path that they want to get on. I speak about
Mm,
different ideas like confidence, decision making, even manifestation, and I put stories based on through clients or personal stuff that I personally went through. Really try to get people to understand like what's going on, to give them that clarity. I'm not a reader, surprisingly.
yeah,
I could say, I think I can now say that I'm a reader, but I used to not be a reader. So there are certain type
yeah.
of books that were easy reads. So I made this like a very easy read, small chapters, and really just tried to not make any chapter contingent on the other chapter. So if you want to like skip around, you could like totally do so.
Sure.
But just allowing it to be like an easy read. It's on Amazon. It's like $10. I don't think I'm doing it for the money, because I've invested a lot more, and we'll see what happens. I think, and if they got the reviews we're getting from the people who bought it, they really enjoy it, and it's just a good reminder. Hey, I'm struggling right now with my self-esteem. Let me just jump in and like see what's going on there. So it's really based on our own personal development, and really just stepping into the lives that we want to be stepping into.
Mm, that's good. That's an aspiration I have, would be to write a book someday.
Yeah,
Um,
do it, man.
it's yeah, I probably should. I should probably get some coaching from you on just making it happen.
All right,
Finding my
I'll
why.
let you know. I'll tell you later what some tips if you want.
Um, so you take a client, and you help them. You first identify their why, find out what's going on, what their why is. I'm sure you talk about goals, accountability. Um, that plays a big part in that as well, right?
100%.
Like,
Yeah, for sure. So I think for a lot of people, I know for me personally, the times where I was like the least productive is because I didn't really have any direction.
yeah,
And I think for a lot of people, they might know, but they don't really know. You know what I'm saying? Like it's, you're in real estate, so you can understand this example, but it's like, oh, I want to invest in real estate. But like, that could mean a million things. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? And people are like, oh, I'm in real estate. Like, but what side of real estate? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you the construction side? Are you the lending side? The investing side? Are you just, I don't know, like there's like so many options, like even investing, like there could be, are you doing multifamily, single family, you're
Mhm.
doing RVs, like storage units, like there's so much you could be doing. And for people that are like, well, I want to be successful, like that's nice, but like doing what, you know what I mean? So the first part is getting real clarity on in terms of what it is we want to be doing, and then really the biggest thing is like reverse engineering the success.
Okay.
So it's getting extreme clarity in terms of what it is we want. And for sometimes we might not be able to get to the end, like the most clarity. Like I was one time working with this kid who he just wanted to get a CPA, right? But I'm like, what do you want to do after your CPA? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, great. We don't have to know yet. but like that's the first like goal, the CPA. So like even though he doesn't necessarily know what he wants to be doing with the CPA, but like he knows what at least the first step is like the
Yeah.
CPA piece. So
Yeah.
like we'll get you to there, and then we'll figure out like what we need to do next, which I think a lot of people for some reason are scared to even take that initial step to get to the next train station, you know, in their own personal lives. So if we can start to get extreme clarity in terms of where it is we
Hmm.
want as much as possible, and then start to reverse engineer it, then we could start to allow ourselves to move forward and really get to the places that we want to get to.
Have you heard the story on Mr. Beast kind of doing that with his YouTube
Which
channel?
one?
Um, so Mr. Beast, you know who Mr. Beast is on
Yeah,
YouTube.
big fan. Yeah.
Yeah. When he was 17, he recorded, I think, 3 or 4 videos. Have you heard the story?
Yeah. I saw those. Yeah.
Yeah, and he set them to be recorded in the future.
Right.
But he spoke to his future self, and he said, when I'm whatever 18, I'm gonna have this many subs, and I'm gonna be going to college or whatever. I can't remember,
Right.
but it's the same premise. Like, yeah, you got to start in the future and then work back, and
Exactly. The best
um,
example I like giving with reverse engineering is if somebody was given like a maze, like on a piece of paper, like what's the
yeah,
best way to do the maze? So if you know any kids that do like you start from the end and you move back to the
yeah,
to the front, you know, like that's the way like you do a maze. If you're looking to just get it done, like to have more fun,
yeah,
you start from the start, of course. So the same thing with our goals. We start from the end and then we just move back to
mm,
the front so we could try to figure out what we want to do. I was one time working with this guy and one of his goal was to own 200 units over the next 2 years in real
yeah,
estate. And he was starting from zero. So like 200 units in 2 years. I'm like, okay, great. Let's try to figure it out. And we started reverse engineering it. And we ended up working, it out. Okay, in the last 6 months, this is how many units we need to buy. And, 6 months before that. And then, in the
yeah,
the first 9 months and 6 months, 3 months, and really breaking down. And the week we were up to, all he really had to do was just reach out to 3 brokers. Like just
hmm,
reach out. And for him, that was so relieving because he felt like in such a rush that he needed to own already units. And I was like, well, this is a 2-year plan. And we're setting up a
yeah,
structure where over time we're going to get there. And by doing that, and especially when all you have to do is reach out to 3 brokers, so then everything else you do is extra and bonuses just make it happen a lot quicker. So if we can
yeah.
get extreme clarity and then work ourselves backwards to what it is we need to be doing, then we'll be able to move forward and see that success, which I think so many people don't have that plan written out, or they don't have
Hmm.
somebody asking them those questions to really pull it out of them, like what it is that they need to be doing. And that's where coaching comes in.
So I mean, you're doing the coaching side, but don't you think accountability plays into that too? Like, I can have these goals of having 200 units,
Sure.
but at some point, I need someone to ask how I'm doing, right?
100%. One of the good examples I like to ask, somebody asks me, oh, like, why does anybody need a coach? And it's like, well, why doesn't everybody just not eat their broccoli? Right? Everybody knows they should be eating broccoli. Everyone knows they should be working out. Everyone knows they should be, working on their relationships and this and that. And it's like, okay,
Yeah,
because it's hard and it's annoying, or it's not pleasant, or we have to prepare ourselves more. We have to be consistent, disciplined, and that's where the accountability comes in. And it's so interesting because you look at like the most successful people in the world, and they all have their support team of people. You want to officially call them a coach,
sure.
consultant, whatever it is, but they have their people who are holding them accountable to do the things that they want. Any top athlete has a team of people who are protecting them, their health, their diets, their everything, their actual skill that they're working on. And for other people who just want to really take it to that level, they're like trying to do it themselves. And it's like, if Michael Jordan needs a whole team to like become Michael Jordan, and he's like the best, like we who are just starting out, do you not think we need the support in the team? And
Yeah,
I get it financially, people can't necessarily afford it, but start your own group, get your other people who are similar to what it is that you're doing to try to hold each other accountable, right? Your spouse could hold you accountable. Your best friend could hold you
yeah.
accountable, a partner, whatever it is, get somebody to hold you accountable to make sure that you can start to take the actions that you want to be taking in order to live that life that you can, and you believe you can start to live.
I just found an app last Saturday. It's called Habit Share,
Okay.
and it's really cool because you create your habits on there,
Okay.
and then you invite friends to join.
Oh, nice.
And if they join, you look up your friend and you get to share your friend. Your friend gets to see all your habits.
Mm,
And every day that I update my habit of what I did, drink my water, exercise, whatever, it sends them a notification. Marty just exercise for today. He met his goal. And it's what and I'm only about 6 days into it, but I can see the power of it, Bennett, because not only am I being held accountable to my habits, but also it's sending notifications to my friends, and I'm hoping it reminds them, hey, they should be doing their habits as well.
Yeah.
So it's powerful, I think. Accountability, I guess that's what I'm getting at. The Bible says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. I think accountability is super, super powerful. Not only is it crucial to meeting these goals, but super powerful in regards to helping each other
Yeah.
get closer to achieving them.
100%. And I think once I hired my first coach, that's when things started to really start to move
Yeah.
and start to really take effect. So, highly recommend it for anybody who can get one.
Yeah.